This is Jamal Green, and just surveying the news on May 20th, 2010, and it looks a little bit like Armageddon. The things that's going on around the world. I mean, I've been reading over the last day or two about Iran and the things that's going on in Iran. Let me say just point blank, Iran, if Israel does not intervene with with a missile strike, if Israel does not hit the known Iranian nuclear facilities with a surgical airstrike, Iran, I believe before the year is out, will probably become a nuclear power. Within a year, I'll say that Iran will be a nuclear power, because from everything that I'm reading, from U.S. press, from foreign press, the things that I've read on Al Jazeera, there is nothing that you are going to be able to do that is going to stop Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. I tell people all the time that one of the most fundamental problems with U.S. foreign policy, particularly when you're talking about engaging the Middle East, is that the United States, or the foreign policy elite, I should say, in the United States, the regime in power, and even some in the previous administration, have a very limited understanding of radicalized religion, and have a very limited understanding of specifically radicalized Islam. And that, as far as Iran is concerned, I'll just stay on the topic of Iran, that Iran, of course, is a Shia country, but there is a population among the Shias, and they call themselves the Twelvers. And the president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and the supreme leader, Khomeini, are also Twelvers. Many of the members of the Guardian Council of Iran are Twelvers. I believe all of them are Twelvers. Member of a lot of the high-ranking officials in the Revolutionary Guard are Twelvers. And basically what they believe is that they essentially believe in eschatology, the same way Christians believe in the eventual appearance of Jesus Christ in some apocalyptic type scenario. The Twelvers form a branch of Shia Islam, which the president of Iran is, and many of the people in Iran, I believe it's like 20 or 30% of the population in Iran, are Twelvers. They believe that they are waiting for the Mahdi. He is an Islamic version of the Christian or Judaic Messiah that they are waiting for, but they believe that in order for the Mahdi to come, that the world has to warrant his coming, that the world has to be in such chaos that it needs some kind of outer worldly figure to save it, and that's when the Mahdi would come. And a lot of the people in Iran, including the current president, a lot of them believe that acquiring a nuclear bomb, and then using it on Israel, and then Israel retaliating with nuclear bombs, the United States getting involved, and then embroiling the entire Middle East and the Persian Gulf into a regional war, could spread into a world war. That is their ideal situation for the Mahdi to appear. And there is nothing that they've said this repeatedly. I've sat down and I've watched interviews with the Iranian president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and he is a true believer. I understand religious, almost a cult-like following that someone could have to a particular religion, and the devotion that they could have. And I think that the reason why we have so much problems in dealing with them is because we don't deal with them the way they are. We deal with them in the way that we think that they should be. Like this whole policy of smart power that the president initiated, him and his Secretary of State, this smart power, we're going to engage our enemies. There's been no fruit of this so-called engagement, essentially because they don't understand that the enemy that they're facing. Staying on the topic of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and the supreme leader Ayatollah Khomeini will not. There is nothing that you can offer them. There is no incentives. There are no disincentives. There are no sanctions. I don't believe there's even a surgical military strike by Israel or by the United States that can stop them in the long run. It may be a short-term stop. If Israel were to hit the sites the known sites, it could probably throw their program behind a few years, but it's not going to stop them, because they have such a fundamental belief that it is their mission from God. And it's strange to me that the people in our foreign policy elite still haven't gotten it yet, that when you feel like you're on a mission from God, there's nothing that's going to stand in your way. When you are told from the time that you are a child, like they are in many of these Middle Eastern and Middle Eastern countries, and South Asian countries, these young men are told from the time that they're born, whether they are a part of the Sunni Islam or Shia Islam, or maybe if they're Twelvers, or where they are part of the Sunni Wahhabi category, they're told from the time that they're young about the glories of martyrdom. I've said and I've watched these indoctrination videos in which the fathers and the grandfathers, they take these young boys at these early ages and they tell them, they tell them that killing, in the name of Allah, in the name of God, is something to be applauded. It's something courageous. It's something to strive for. Martyrdom is something to strive for. Making the infidels bow to Islam is something to strive for. That this is your lot in life. This is your mission in life. This is your mission in life. And if that's instilled in you from the time that you're a child, what kind of person do you think that would create? That's why we have Osama bin Laden's. That's why we have Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's and Ayman al-Zawahiri's, and this is why we have the madmen that are basically terrorizing the world today. And it really just pains me, and it also makes me upset that we don't have people in the current administration, and maybe we do, and maybe they just don't speak up, I'm not sure, that fully understand and grasp the fact that on the subject of Iran, nothing short of a U.S.-Israeli joint military strike to take out the known Iranian facilities, and then to be ready, to be on standby and ready to withstand an Iranian retaliation, because there will be some type of retaliation. Now, of course, if we knock out their forces, we could knock out their forces to the point where a retaliation would be very difficult for them, and it would be a very limited retaliation, one that we could surely thwart. But nothing short of that is going to stop Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. The president of Iran, the supreme leader of Iran, the guardian council of Iran, the Revolutionary Guard of Iran, these are the actors that hold power in Iran, and they are all on one accord. They will not bend to the West, the great Satan. They will not bend to Israel, who they call the little Satan. Russia and China will not help, and this is another misconception that the current administration continues to perpetuate, because Russia and China are not going to help the United States and Germany and the other, the P5+1. China and Russia have lucrative deals with Iran. There was talk about in 2009. I remember reading several articles in foreign press. I encourage people to read foreign press reports, because sometimes the American press, they try to suppress things because of, it's political. But I remember I was reading in the foreign press last year, it was a few months ago, about Iran and Russia, who have two of the largest natural gas reserves in the world, actually coming together and forming what it would eventually be a natural gas cartel, kind of like what OPEC is now, which is an oil cartel. Foreign powers, oil, the Gulf oil producing states and things like that, they have an oil cartel. What they were going to do was Russia and Iran were going to lead the effort to form a natural gas cartel, which of course that would be detrimental to Europe. That would be detrimental to many of the other nations that receive a lot of their gas, because